Hi, good day. My name is Adeleke-Adedoyin. I'm a cloud solution architect for Microsoft. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Azure DevOps to build 4 applications in 4 languages. When you go to dev.azure.com and you log in, this is what you see. This is the landing page when you log in. We can go right ahead and create a new project, which I'm going to do. I'll call this demo any language. And what I'm essentially doing is creating a project within an organization in my Azure DevOps. My organization name is Azure DevOps Lab Demo, which I already created previously. On the left-hand side, there are a couple of things to note. There's boards, the pipelines, and the repos, repository. We're interested in the repository, so we're going to go ahead and grab some source code for Fifi and friends. This is where our business value, our apps and infrastructure as code will leave. So we can go ahead and import right from Azure DevOps using the Git protocol. So what we're doing here is we're bringing in code into our DevOps project that lives in our organization, that lives in Azure DevOps. We need this to kickstart the process. Now that we have the code, let's take a look and see what exactly we're working with. Looking at the code we just brought in, we have a couple of folders on the left. We have Captain Cube, which represents our Go application or a line of business written in Go. You can see that. We also have an Azure build pipeline YAML file, which targets Ubuntu infrastructure, which is going to use to build the images for the containers. We'll talk about that later. There is a NodeJs, which happens to be a JavaScript application or line of business, as you can see. It has its own Azure build YAML pipeline that's written as code. We have a Fifi, which happens to be a PHP line of business application or a simple PHP. Last but not the least is the Parrot. Parrot is a friend that is a .NET Core and program.cs. You can see a little bit of CS there. This is all great. Let's go ahead and create a new pipeline where we can automate this build in Azure DevOps. We create a new pipeline, and just to recap, we're trying to establish an automated way of building things. We need to point to where our code lives. It's in Azure repo, and we can easily get it from there. But let's switch to the classic editor. In the classic editor, we can see that the repo part has been set for us. So all we have to do is point to where the configuration as code is. Remember that YAML file we saw earlier on? Well, for this specific YAML file, we know we want to run it on a hosted Ubuntu 16.04, and we can select the path for the specific friend and pick out the Azure build pipeline.yaml file that we saw. Next, we need to go ahead and set up some pipeline variables. I know we're going to need a project name for each of our friends. We also need a registry password, which we had in our previous setup video, and you can look at that. That was our series 1, part 1 of 3. Registry name we need, and registry login we need. Let's go back to the last video and let's look at what we're talking about here. We created a registry password, if you recall, and then we also created all the variable names that What we're really trying to accomplish is to find a consistent way to build things. We're going to use Azure pipelines on an Ubuntu image and cloud native tools like Helm and Docker to build things. So we're back here in Azure DevOps in our pipelines section where we have the variables. We have added the correct value for each of these pipeline variables, and we can really go ahead now and start to reap the benefit of automated build in a consistent way. We can queue a build. When we queue a build, we can go and check on the status of the build. So we kicked off the build. So what this means in Azure for you, we are running an agent that's running on a hosted Ubuntu 16.04 image, your pipeline, all scripted out. If you want to, you can choose to have that on-prem or any other cloud. Let's duplicate this tab and repeat the same process really for another one of our Fifi and friends. So we can move in and clone this exact same pipeline that we just built out, changing the name to the appropriate friend that we want. In this case, we can change it to Fifi. Folks, it's that easy. Right now, I'm just clicking through cloning my build step for Fifi line of business application. We'll go to the configuration as code section where we have our YAML for our build pipelines for Fifi. So what are we doing here really? We're essentially setting up the build pipeline for Fifi, a PHP app, using Azure DevOps services on a hosted Linux Ubuntu, and specifically cloud native tools Helm and Docker. We can go ahead and do the same thing for our other friends, cloning the base Parrot C# build pipeline that we have, renaming it, repurposing it for our Node.js application, hosted on an agent pool, Ubuntu 16.04, and to the specific configuration as code that we have in our repo, which we imported at the beginning of the video. Next up, we'll just change the pipeline variables that's specific to the Node project. In our previous build out for PHP, I kind of omitted showing that, but it's a required step. You have to make specific project changes. We just built out a Node-ready JavaScript project using native tools, Helm and Docker on a Ubuntu agent. So we're doing a lot of things here. The proof is in the pudding. We can see we have a Node.js, we have a PHP thing going on. Let's see exactly what's happening when we go into the portal. Using the Azure CLI command, we can do an AZACR repository list, and we can see that we have a Parrot and Fifi as our images, container images that we've built with Docker, and it's sitting for us in our container registry. This is the light at the end of the tunnel, folks. We have successfully pushed and built container images using Docker into Azure Container Registry. Specifically for Parrot, we can see the repository exists with specific tags and build times that it was built. We'll have exactly the same output for Captain Cube Go, which happens to be a Go line of business, and also for Node.js when that completes. To recap, we started with Azure repos, and then we use Azure build pipelines to build each of our 4 friends, pushing a Docker image to our Azure Container Registry.